602. Please stand for the invocation. Commissioner Paul, will you lead us in the invocation? God, Lord, we thank you for this day that's the brother of the we thank you for the country. Who's this place speech that in the Middle East and Russia. Lord, we pray with our leaders, we thank you for our country. We ask that you would use that tonight. You give us wisdom and discernment for all that we do. Thank you for those responders and our soldiers men and women. Protect them. Ask all this in Christ's name. Amen. Roll call.
Commissioner Cole,
Here.
Commissioner Nelson,
Here.
Commissioner Taylor,
Here.
Vice Chairwoman Hill,
Here.
Chairman Fulwood.
Present.
Thank you.
First thing, we have any audience comments?
None.
Chairman, before we adopt the agenda, I'd like to make a motion that we amend the agenda to include 2 items.
We haven't gotten to the agenda yet. Oh, the agenda?
Because we should adopt the agenda. So prior to adopting the agenda, Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we amend the agenda to include the Board of Directors page and special budget amendment, and also noted to the corporate.
We have never adopted our agenda. Why do we need to start doing that now?
It's just Robert's rule.
Whatever. It's not on the agenda.
Patrick, could you give us a little bit of advice on adopting the agenda to start meeting and the ability to amend?
You can adopt the agenda or not, it's up to you. We've never strictly followed Robert's rules, being considered a small board. I don't remember any practice of this board adopting agenda. I do recall some discussion that maybe something that is considered or put into practice. The amendment of the agenda, I would caution you to amend the agenda as you sit here right now to add something that you're going to take final action on. The agenda has been noticed and published. The items are on it, and those are the ones that should be addressed, and final action of the board should be limited to those items. There are exceptions for emergencies, but you have an agenda in front of you, and so I would caution you against adding something to the agenda right now and taking final action on it, given that it wasn't, again, published and noticed different from what's in front of you.
So I would offer as evidence of the emergency that we voted on letter to Mr. David Kaufman's attorney at the last meeting, which offered a severance package and we did not post on it into our budget. And so I would offer that to the chair as consideration to accept my motion to.
So is there a motion on the floor?
It's a motion.
Okay, can you restate the motion?
The motion is to amend our agenda to include an item for director pay severance and corresponding budget amendment, as well as a notice to the director.
So the motion, in order to do that, based on what you said, the motion needs to include the emergency part of, you're making the motion just to amend the agenda. Again, restating what I already said, I would caution you against taking final action on something that you put on the agenda right now, unless it is characterized as an emergency, and that doesn't need to be voted on. So if you want to put something on the agenda as an emergency, the emergency status of it needs to be voted on, then a motion to amend the agenda. Does that make sense? You need a decision of the board that there is an emergency issue that needs to be taken up tonight. So that's one. And then you need a decision of the board to then amend the agenda to include that emergency item.
We can also add to the agenda discussion, and you get that point of discussion, I mean, it can just fall under, new business, brought forward by Mr. Hill, and so without having to, like, I mean, and we're already spending 5 minutes on whether, how to handle this agenda, and, so I think it can be just simple enough, right, if you break it up to the board, if it can be final vote, you can make that your recommendation, it'll still bring it up for discussion. And then if we all determine it is an emergency, at that point, yeah, absolutely, we want it down.
100%. The board can discuss any business of vote at any time. I'm cautioning you not to take final action on an item that's not on your agenda. That's all. So certainly you can discuss it. If that discussion leads to the discussion of emergency, then we can take action at that point.
So if we get to a point on the agenda where I'm asking the commissioners, is there anything else to bring forward? You can do it at that time.
You can.
Okay, thank you, Chairman.
Okay, no comments from the audience?
No.
All right. Approval of minutes for September 25th, 2023.
I'll make a motion, Chairman, to amend, or I'm sorry, to adopt the minutes without amendment.
I'm sorry, second. Motion made and seconded to adopt the minutes of September 25th, 2023. Any discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. Motion carried. All right, who's got this timeline date for legal pay? Who put that?
Chairman, that was my item. This was brought up at a previous meeting. Patrick mentioned that there was an opportunity to receive a discount on our legal bills if we committed to a time certain for payment. And so I wanted to raise that for the board to make a final decision on a date certain year so that we could qualify for that discount.
I have no clue where to go with that. Any discussion?
Well, I think it was for just the actual timeline, because it wasn't, I don't remember specific
The other,
date or, number of months that we mentioned, but it's all that coming up.
So Patrick, in order to qualify for the discount, what would we need to commit to?
I haven't received any information on this, so I don't really know what discount you're referring to or what timeline you're referring to. We run on a fiscal year, so any payment, and Pierre knows this, because we talked about it. It'd be great to be paid in full for the year, but I also understand, what the situation here is, and so, we're patient. I understand what Hope is capable of, and you'll pay when you can pay it. So I'm not really sure what you want me to say about that.
yeah, we've made a commitment to make certain payments at certain times. Is that correct? Isn't that what we did?
We're continuing to do options just
Yeah.
for our reimbursement. Now we're up to 30,000. For we obviously we have we're waiting for an FMIP reimbursement of $63,000.
Right.
Sure. If that comes in, obviously when that comes in, we'll get to fine. Obviously, toward the end of the year, we will try to pay as much as cash as we have to go with that, which is what we did last year. We try and pay it down to, when we have bill cash and pay it, obviously we're getting 12,000 a month from ARPA, and that's what we're using to essentially pay, again, whatever cash we have to go.
Chairman, if I may.
Yes.
So behind you are the outstanding legal invoices
Yeah.
from 2022.
Right. We know what those are.
Right. So then in 2023, all of matter 007, Patrick, are paid up to September. And this is the amount that I gave you just now. And I submitted that to FMIT, and this is to date what FMIT gave us, reimbursed us,
Right.
okay?
And then as Peter just said, when we get the money now that we're asking from FMIT,
We'll
figure
make
out.
payments to
Payment, yeah.
legal. total outstanding balance as of September of this year is 67,000.
Okay. Any other questions about that? All right, moving on, resolution 2023 R02. Code of Ethics and Procedures.
We circulated, Chairman, at the last meeting, the code of ethics, and I don't know if Patrick is between, amendments or anything, provided any amendments. I don't know if the board would like more time to consider what was presented.
I'd like more time.
I haven't received anything.
Okay, so I would like to make a motion, Chairman, to adopt the code of ethics as presented at our last meeting.
Motion made and seconded to adopt the code of ethics. Any discussion? There was something, I got a copy of it. You got a copy?
It's right behind you.
Cool. Oh, here we go. That's the resolution. Okay, there's something in here that I didn't agree with, and that's item E under agenda. Recognition of elected officials, honored guests in the industry and professional representatives and others and tenants. I don't think that needs to be said and adopted in a resolution. If they are here, we're going to recognize. So I'd like that part taken out. And this is something we do already, and I don't understand why we have to adopt a resolution to do what we're doing. I don't know, I just don't think it's necessary. I'm sorry.
I don't see that,
Yeah, it's
Chairman.
at the end, the agenda is at the end.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's at the end of the document, so if you go all the way down.
All the way
Way down.
There you
There you go. That's item E.
Ah. There you go.
And we do all of this now. Is there anything in here we don't do besides that one item?
So Chairman, the point of updating the ethics, resolution is that we didn't actually have an ethics resolution where we adopted the Florida, code of ethics as our code of ethics. And all we had provided on our website was a 2015 resolution, which contained a lot of information that didn't pertain to ethics. It was a lot more than really what we need to describe what we do in our meetings. The result of processes that we don't follow. So having.
Yes, can you speak to that?
Sure. In the prior version, there was a lot of discussion about refraining from negative discourse. So lots of words about that. And then also the process whereby any member of the public would place an item on the agenda, which is not something we actually do. If a commissioner does not sponsor an item, then it doesn't. So that is an important change. And then also just adopting the Florida code of ethics as our ethics, which I think is a good signal to the public and to our board.
I just don't see why it's necessary for us to do this. Anybody that wants to put anything on the agenda, we've always done that. If a citizen wants to put something on the agenda to discuss, they can let us know ahead of time, or they can come speak about it when we give them an opportunity to speak at meetings. If not sure, necessary. Robert's Rules of Order, I'm not sure we need to adopt Robert's Rules of Order. We're a small board. We should maybe look at small board rules.
Currently, we have Robert's Rules of Order as our adopted rules of order
When did we adopt them?
in 2015.
Right.
And if no member of the commission wishes to discuss an item, but a member of the public places it on the agenda, it doesn't make sense. Because practically speaking, there wouldn't be a motion to take action. So the way the resolution was crafted doesn't really align with common sense or our practice.
All right, any other discussion? All in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye.
I
Opposed, no, no. You got a vote? What? All right,
4-1.
motion carried. Thank you. All right, I'm gonna move number 5, down one, talk about advisory board. Your idea from advisory board.
And in front of each of the commissioners is a very rough draft of a charter for the Port Authority Advisory Board. I didn't want to go with the Port Advisory Board because that would be the same acronym as the city planning advisory board. So we have the PAAB potentially. And this charter would determine what this board discusses, what their purpose is, and how their membership will be structured. So in summary, it would be a 5-member board, and this board would make recommendations to the OPA Commission regarding our activities to the benefit of the citizens of Nassau County and the state of Florida. So these are projects or initiatives within OPA's charter that we would hear from the Port Advisory Board as to the recommendation. And the value of this board is that it allows members of the public an opportunity to bring forward objections, ideas in a more relaxed and approachable setting, similar to advisory boards at the county and in the city, and would allow for a more organized process for the public to engage with the board. Each member of the commission would nominate someone for a seat, and that person would serve a coextensive term as the nominating commissioner. Ideally, we would want individuals who reside in the district of the nominating commissioner, but that is not strictly required. But they would have to be valid, verified residents who have, provided a homestead exemption in their name that has shown that they are maintaining residence in Nassau County throughout their term of office. The board would follow Robert's Rules of Order, regarding their meetings. Their meetings would be open to the public, but it's not necessary that they are broadcast. And they would elect their own chair and vice chair, and no chair would serve more than 2 consecutive terms. They would follow the Sunshine Law, the Public Records Law, Code of Ethics, and other applicable local or state statutes. And we would have an orientation at the start of their term, which would be not necessarily too long, but in communication with our board attorney. So since this is the first time that the charter has been presented, I wanted to hear your feedback. I know you might have the opportunity, members of the commission, might have the opportunity to discuss with their potential nominees, the prospect of serving on the board. I'm sure you were asked the same question I was, which is, what's the purpose of the board? What's the charter? What's the term? What's the time commitment? And so I think this provides, a starting point. If you have, feedback on this charter, maybe we should have board kind come to agreement as to, what this committee would do.
And I think that's a question, and I think, advisory boards are, they can certainly be, useful and helpful. So, like, there's the planning advisory board, they're focused on one, specific thing. Affordable housing advisory board is focused on one specific thing. So the board advisory board, how does that really different from our role in the
Exactly. I mean, that's what we do as commissioners. That's our job.
I mean, is there a way to kind of, I guess, mirror this down, into something more specific, where we kind of, through this, we're providing them the direction, instead of really putting it on them and say, hey, you guys take on a project, or you take something on and bring it back to us. Is there a way to kind of, whether it's, economic development initiatives, or something along that?
Okay, I like that. So if you look at the second sentence, it says that the board may receive and evaluate proposals for projects or initiatives within OPA's charter authority and for the benefit of the citizens of Nassau County and the state of Florida. We could put it at the end of that, which has an impact on the local community. So these would be projects which would have a direct impact. So there's something that's really just only for the Board of Bernardino and for us. That may not necessarily go before this board. But if it's a project, like for example, something that we might do on our parcels of land that might have an impact on the community, that would be an item to go before that board for that. Which is not unlike what we do, we just don't follow as much reporting process for it, and we kind of bear that process on our staff and on us individually, and it isn't always consistently applied.
We've appointed boards to help us with decisions in the past. Our plan we just adopted, the master plan. We had a board that met to help us with that throughout the county. I think if we have some issue that comes up, if we need advice from the community, we can appoint a board at any time to look at those things. I don't think we need to have a standing board to go out and then come back and report to us what they think we should be doing. That's our job. That's what we get elected for. Why do we need a board to bring us information? They can come and speak at our meetings at any time, make recommendations. But there's no reason for us to have a board that has to meet. If Patrick has to inform them of anything, we've got to pay him just to do that. That's just more legalistic. I understand what you're trying to do, but I just don't think it's a good idea.
Commissioner Cole has it.
Yes.
I agree with you. I don't see that we need to convolute our board with this, right? There's not an issue that we're dealing with. We need opinions or guidance from the public. We're very transparent with what we're doing now. We have listened to the public on many occasions, and we have the opportunity to come here every time we have a meeting. Say something. Again, I just feel that this convolute system and something else that we may have to deal with legal affairs and or additional work for design, and I don't see the need. But that's my opinion.
So we talk about, we said before that our role is really to protect the interests of the community. And so I feel like that's kind of where our focus should be, and I understand that, but there's also other opportunities. We talk about revenue opportunities all the time, and I think we actually need a lot of guidance. If you ask me, but if you but looking at revenue opportunities and things that could be out there, potential opportunities to help us be more successful and prosper. And that's where when I say trying to narrow it down to something more specific, if we can kind of get there with some, maybe it's, I don't even know how to phrase it, but, a board that actually are focused on, that's what we're looking for us, then, I mean, I think that's probably the better direction. This is just so open.
Okay, so where it says, I'm sorry, Chairman, Marion, and it says it may receive and guide your proposals. That same sentence you're looking at before. Are you thinking like something in there about the board may on its own initiative? Evaluating, develop proposals to bring the county board on board. So the way it's written is it's an advisory board, so we can still we take whatever action, we see that. They would have to validate the recommendation with an analysis. Which I think would be helpful if us when we're making decisions about grants, about public impact projects. And I think it would give our process time to be vetted in the sunshine. And I think it would be helpful for coming up with ideas. So you want to move about economic development?
I think I would like to, it kind of steers it more in that direction. Again, we talked, we look at the different, opportunities we may have. I say all the time, that we have opportunities for all of this county. And, so yeah, if we kind of focus it more in that direction, I think it's something good.
Okay. So the first sentence says that it's recommendations and guidance affecting those activities. So, I think what you're getting at is direct impact to the community, and or economic development. Because there could be impactful projects which qualify for grant funding that OPA could, that's good and accessing funding for, but they're not necessarily revenue generating. And there might be revenue generating projects that don't necessarily create impact, but I think when you have both of those items, that would be something where it would be perfect for this type of board. But we have a lot of members of our community that have really good experience in logistics and ports, both in Jacksonville and, here in Fernandina. And I think our planning process really highlighted that. The people that stepped forward with, very detailed analysis of what we were proposing in our master plan. So I think there is capacity in the community to serve and there's interest. I like these revisions.
Well, that's what I'm saying. If someone has an idea they're gonna take it before this committee, they're gonna come to us and present that. Anybody in the community can do that by themselves. I mean, if there's an idea out there that they think the board should look at, should take it on, they can come right up to this podium and present that to this board. I just don't see we need a committee to do that. It's just, and I've dealt with committees for a long time. Committees don't like to meet. They may meet 2 or 3 times and then they'll get bored and move on. I've seen that. We've had several committees that we appointed from this board. And they panned out to be, they didn't meet with each other. They didn't care about what they were doing. I just don't think it's necessary. Anybody can come in. These people from the public have been here telling us what they think and giving us ideas. So myself, I'm going to vote no on this if it comes up as a motion.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
If I may, I would like to add something. I'm sitting here listening and I'm reading, and it takes me back to when we were addressing the master plan. We had stakeholders. I was not a seated commissioner at the time, so I did slip into one of the meetings and listen to the information that those stakeholders were providing. I think that is a good thing, but I think expanding our position out there is, I would have to look at it a little bit more, but I like the idea of stakeholders, because everybody is a stakeholder. You have a stake in what's going on in this community at that board with the people and with this commission. And you're just as much a part of it, just sitting here as you would be if you were on an advisory board. I listen to you. I take what you say into consideration and apply it to whatever topic that we are discussing and we vote on. It's not what I want. I'm here to represent you and the people of my district. And I think that if we're going to go down this road, we need to be careful and we need to stay with the stakeholders. There's some very smart people that were in those stakeholders. And they brought some very strong experience, information to that table.
If we have a project that we're looking at, we can always appoint a stakeholder committee to look at it and advise us what they think the best way to take. Patrick, you got any comments?
Thank you, Chairman. So I did also just received this afternoon, so I haven't looked at it like some more time because there's some wordsmithing and some questions I have and some kind of incomplete, at least from my perspective. So I'd like to take this and review it and provide some comment back to all of you. But I will say from my experience, an advisory board has a specific task. And then it's directed a specific task by the parent board. And so, you know, the first thing that comes out to me is it may receive and evaluate proposals from whom, about what, how often. The last thing you want is board members going out and making promises they can't keep, or talking about things that we don't have authority over, or any of those things. So an advisory board does usually have affordable housing, tree canopy, resiliency, you know, some specific topic. And then as they exist, as they do their work, they are assigned tasks from the parent board. They do not go find tasks. They are directed by the parent board because they are an advisory board. So the parent board may say, work on Diamond D, go find us something out there, whatever it may be. So it's a little, for my comfort level, it's a little open-ended. The first paragraph, there needs to be a lot more direction on what they are going to do, what their responsibilities are. And then I also have just some other administrative comments these board members need to know. For instance, that they will have to provide financial disclosures under state law. Some people don't want to do that. So it's not just public records and sunshine, it's all of the other things that come along with it. So I'd like an opportunity to provide you all some comment. I can certainly have that to you by the end of the week, or I have been judge interviews all day tomorrow. So by the beginning of next week, and then allow you all to further discuss that.
I agree with Patrick. I think we're just opening up a big can of worms here that we don't need to do. This board was elected to do what this says. We got an advisory board for it, so I just, when I finish, so I just don't think it's real necessary to have an advisory board to do our job. You may go ahead.
Chairman, I will make some red lines to this document and send it to Patrick for wordsmithing. I'll add a clause as directed by the open board, so it's like only assigned tasks. I'll add which are determined by the board to have a direct impact on the community or economic development, but I think I'd like to narrow that to matters that the board determines would benefit from this type of evaluation. So I'll think about that and maybe send you the red line, like you opine on it, we'll attach it to the next meeting agenda, and then we can vote on that time if we're ready.
We need to get that before the next meeting, for all the commissioners.
Well, Patrick will get it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Thank you.
Last thing on the agenda is sale of local properties. As you know, we lost our realtor, backed out of the plan. So we need to know what we're going to do with getting a new broker or person to deal with property. So to open it up for discussion, I move that we list for sale properties located at 332 North 3rd Street and that we choose one of the remaining brokers that applied to our RFQ. RFP, to act as our agent for the sale of the property, and a resolution written to place the money from the sale into an investment account to be used for any identified future projects chosen and voted on by this commission. Do I hear a second? Motion been made and seconded. Do I hear any discussion?
That is, are we okay with the RFP going to our next builder, or do we need to advertise it yet?
I'll take a look at it. I think the language we included in there was pretty much the board could decide to cancel, modify, alter, but I'll confirm that language.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to confirm that the parcel that we are talking about is parcel C. Is that the one next to the blue house?
No,
It's not.
no, it's the one on the southeast corner of Dade and Third Street. Cat corner of the Customs House, not the one across, and not the one at the blue house. I want to hold those two properties for later. Keep them in our possession. We can just sell that one parcel that's over there.
That's the one there directly east of warehouse number.
Yeah.
Number 2.
Yes. Any further discussion?
Yeah, so, Mr. Chairman, I feel like we can step through the cave about the ordinance. We didn't have a plan on what to put in funds, and you just referenced the plan, and I'm going to ask for clarification on that very shortly, but we couldn't even agree to getting on what we're selling. And I know for several meetings, we had these two commissioners, who were adamant that we're only going to sell one property. And I don't blame Mr. Hillman for backing out. He was certainly qualified on the right track, but we failed to give him proper guidance, which again is why he brought us, a listing agreement with 3 properties. So I'm not going to sell anything until we're better organized moving forward. I think we do need a plan. And I do want to again just ask again for clarification on what you said the plan was for the funds. But I don't have a good. It's just the whole process doesn't sit well with me. And I think we certainly be better organized moving forward.
I think I told you where the money was going to go. It's going to go into an investment account and be saved for any projects that we may identify in the future that we would need money for.
You just said this.
Huh?
You just said it just now.
Yeah, that's the motion.
That's what happened.
Yeah, so I think that's more organized than we did. Mr. Hillman backed out. I think we offered him an opportunity to come to this meeting and discuss them with us. But he chose to go to Texas and do some business, take care of business. He knew a month ahead of time that we were going to be discussing this, and he failed to come. He wanted to come in on the phone and talk about it, and we just don't work on the phone. He should have been here. So if you wanted to back out, that's up to him, and I can understand that he was tired of dealing with it. So we have, I think, 3 other companies that want to work with us, and I think we should choose one of those, or it's your pleasure to move on to somebody else. But I think Pierre will tell you that the right thing to do with this money is to invest it, and we need to do a resolution that says that money will go into an account and be saved for future use for any identified projects that we may want to do. And the money cannot be used for operations. It's strictly for future projects that we identify. I think it's a good motion. I think it's good use of the property, the money for the property. And if we sell one, which most of you wanted to do, and keep the other 2. And we can decide next week or next year or 10 years from now what to do with the other 2 pieces of property. Any other discussion?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to say, on that same line, that selling that property, we had this discussion at the last meeting, So you're saying that money could not be used to make needed, and I mean needed repairs, the facility, buildings at the port?
We can't do that. That's the operator's job to do that.
Okay, well, I'm glad to clarify that.
It's written in our operating agreement, how that works.
Okay. I want to look into that a little bit more, but I was out there in January of this year when the destruction happened to the canopy over the rail dock. I was out there yesterday. I also observed additional pieces of ivy being taken down because it became a hazard. Now, that's nearly 10 months. Nothing's been done. I'm very concerned because, as I've stated, that is a safety issue, and we're just marching forward. So, to be honest with you, unless we can use that money to protect the asset that we were elected to protect and to make sure they're repaired correctly, that northeast corner of warehouse number 1 has been damaged again, and it's been patched. I was out there yesterday, and the paneling on it does not match. It's just not right. That wall has been knocked down probably 3 times.
Have you talked to the operator about this?
We mentioned that at the last meeting. Also, we made a motion to have the attorney write a letter on these damages that seem to be unnoticed, and we need to stop that. It needs to be addressed, and if we can't spend that money on the port facility, then I should, you need to sell the property. To be honest with you, I just want to be straightforward.
Yeah.
No, I have Commissioner Nelson's list that's been forwarded to the operator.
Well, we happen to have the gentleman that took Bush's place here tonight, Greg Hale and Hale.
Give a motion and a second. So you need,
We need to address that.
well, you need to keep your discussion to the motion and the second.
Right.
So,
Pierre, you want to put your 2 cents in on this about how we can use that money?
So, obviously, use it for whatever else we want, for capital, and again, if we're gonna sell a capital asset, we should buy some other replacement capital asset. Kind of obviously putting in investment account that, putting into an investment account, obviously the commission has to, the only people that stop is yourselves from taking that money out and using it for operations. So, but yeah, I don't have a particular view on.
So there's nothing to say we can't use that for operations.
So even if you do a resolution tonight, a future permission would override that resolution.
Yeah.
That's, so there's nothing that locks up that money from a future permission.
So we could, if we see something that absolutely we need to do and the operator does not get it done, we can use that money for that.
You certainly can use this money for capital improvement for it.
Yeah.
The operator is responsible for maintaining the port.
Yeah.
The agreement makes it clear the operator is responsible for maintaining the port. That does not. If you want to use this money on capital project port.
I mean, you have the money there to be able to step in because obviously the brakes are on right now. And when I go through the warehouse and I see erosion problems that are not going away, they're only getting worse as we change. It bothers me. Our job is to protect the port and the assets thereof. And I think that if we can take that money, bring that up, we definitely need to keep an eye that when something is damaged, that it's repaired correctly. and not just patch. That's my concern.
Well, if that's a project that we decide we need to do, then we'll have the money there to do it.
That's my contention is it looks like that's going to be the case rather than the call, because I see no action.
But the motion is to, when we get the money to invest it, then we can decide what projects we need to use it for.
As long as the language includes that we get into a situation where the operator is not taking care of business, then in order to protect that piece of property, we can move in and do what we need to do. That's what needs to be done now.
I'll just say, I mean, the problem is selling properties won't get you much benefit for it. That money will go very quickly on a very few projects. But you're not, and something like repairing, again, these projects are multiple tens of thousands, if not $100,000 projects. Selling one property is not going to get you far as far as the maintenance requirements of the court.
If you could explain about the operator's obligation to maintain the facility under the operating agreement, and then how the cost there would work with the $80,000 in repairs for particular repair.
So, it's not being ordered. My understanding of it is, so the operator is responsible for all maintenance, for anything under $15,000. Any project that costs $15,000, that automatically is the operator's responsibility.
That's in the operating, yeah.
Yeah, any project above $15,000 is the responsibility of the court. But the only money the court will have to do that is the maintenance account, where the operator contributes $5,000 per month. That money is not available. At the end of the day, the operator is still responsible for the maintenance of the court facility.
That's correct.
So whether that money is available, whether there's money in the maintenance account or not, because it's required repair, it's the responsibility of the operator. And they can call on the money in the maintenance account if it's available.
Chairman, so this process of evaluating our property started at a larger discussion of what the property can be used for. Because it is fair public land, it's not currently actively being used for anything, it doesn't provide a purpose as a buffer. And it is an investment that if the board needed to, in an emergency situation, that has, the property has value, but I have yet to hear what the emergency is that isn't the operator's obligation. And I have yet to hear what the investment would be that we would make a corresponding investment in capital improvements. And I think this whole process has been rushed. And there isn't an emergency rationalizing fire sale of our property. I would not vote in favor of this.
I don't think it's a fire sale. I think we need money to invest in any project that we may have come before us in the future. If we don't have the money right then, we could lose out. I think it's important to have money to be able to do what we need to do in the future and build the port out beyond where it is now and get out into the county.
Chairman, you've served on this board since 2008. I'm just curious as to why you think now is the time to sell public land so that we will have the ability to make investment.
First time we've had it available to do. That we agreed not to extend the footprint of the port on those properties. And so we're going to just let it sit there forever. I don't understand that. And if we needed money to invest in some project, we can't just in a week sell a piece of property. It could take months, maybe a year to sell that property. But, and we've got 3 pieces. I'm only asking for one property. To have some money to be able to invest in or do whatever repairs we decide as a commission to do to the port. That's where I'm going with this. And I think for us to sit on that property for no reason is just irresponsible.
I have said at the beginning that I do not have an issue with selling one piece of property to ensure that we have a reserve of money. That money, if needed, will go to, take care of those buildings, because those buildings are not in good shape. All you gotta do is walk through, look at the roof, look at this canopy. Not only is it an eyesore, but it's a safe hat. And I had a visitor with me yesterday that saw it and all the same. So it needs to be addressed. I don't have a problem putting the money in an interest-bearing account for the authority. I don't have a problem with that because it doesn't look like the wheel is turning very fast to fix what needs to be fixed now. And it's going to be a situation, if not if, there's an incident or an accident, it's when. When you have rainwater getting on slick concrete, hard rubber tires, 8,000-pound roll of paper, that's a recipe for disaster. So I'm gonna leave it at that.
Commissioner Nelson, I think you have very valid points, and I think those should be considered top priorities for the board to discuss. But I would like to point out that this initiative, the development plan, came up without any discussion of what you're describing. And I have the sense, although I can't validate it, that there may be a specific project in mind, that these funds may already be in some commissioner's mind spoken for.
No, there is
No, he's not.
There is not. I can assure you, there is not.
Now, what you're alluding to, we can be on that is not the case. James, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
No, are you? Okay. Gentlemen, we voted, like last year, and it was a 3-2 vote, if I'm not mistaken, to sell the properties.
Yes.
Okay, and we decided to do that because of the state of our affairs, and we needed that buffer, and that was the conclusion that we came to, that we're sitting on an asset we're sitting on. So we, and Commissioner Nelson put it, if you got too many toys, you need to get rid of some of your toys, and that was, the creation there. We've got all these properties, we needed to sell that to help strengthen our economies. Now, we did not say at the time what we would use the money for, whether it was not applied, it was not indicated, anything what we would use that money for, except to build up our. And give us a buffer. So that's what we voted for. Either two was to do that. But now since then, there's been a lot of discussion, and of course, the realtors, we're back to this where we're at with the money here.
And Commissioner Nelson, if we don't sell at least one of those properties, we're not gonna have any money to do anything.
The chairman, I totally agree. And that's why I said at the very beginning, I'm not in opposition to sell one piece.
All right.
Nothing further outside of that, because as commissioners, we are charged with taking care of that port to make sure that it is operating safely, that the equipment, that the buildings, facility, if something's tore up, needs to be fixed correctly.
Got it.
Not patched, not, just knotted up, but it needs to be done. Because the implications of somebody gets hurt on that rail dock, where none of us here want to face that, I can tell you. Because that's like driving a forklift on ice. And the braking, and I explained this in my letter, the braking goes wrong.
All right.
Chairman,
I'm gonna restate the motion.
Chairman, can I add one more item before you?
Yeah.
Before we vote on this, I would just like to ask as a final plea to the commissioner, that if indeed your rationale is to protect the port operators and to invest in port facilities, that we perform an estimate of the work that needs to be done, that we follow up on the letter that Patrick was requested to write, asking for the operator to make these repairs. And that we evaluate how much revenue we will actually receive from the sale of the one property and how far it will go based on Pierre's comment that it's not going to go very far. So basically do the financial analysis to determine whether we should sell land and put it in investment grade account and put these up.
Okay. I move we list for sale, I'm gonna state the motion. For sale of properties located at 332 North Third Street, and that we choose one of the remaining brokers that applied to our RFQ to act as our agent for the sale of the property, and the resolution written to place the money from the sale into an investment account to be used for any identified future projects chosen and voted on by this commission. That is in the project. All right, all in favor of the motion? Oh, we got
Commissioner,
to,
will you affirm second?
Thank you, sir.
all in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. Opposed, no.
No,
Motion carried. Now. Should we talk about brokers?
I need to look at the RFQ as we.
Okay.
What next step, take there, and I'll bring a report back to you.
All right, we'll continue this discussion about what broker, how we go about choosing a broker. Have a what we have that and further discussion. Ray, if you can get us a list of those projects you think need doing.
Yeah, we have that.
You already have?
That's what we sent to the RFQ.
Yeah, okay. Have they responded?
No.
Okay. All right, we'll continue this next meeting then. All right, well. Any other thing, anything else to come before the commission? From the commissioners?
Chairman, the item that I brought forward at the onset, I would like to discuss. At our last meeting, we voted on a letter to the conference attorney, which stated that we would pay, we would provide 60 days of additional employment time. And at the end of the 60 days, there would be severance for the operator, for the contract. We did not make a corresponding amendment to our budget. And we also didn't ask for acknowledgement from Mr. Coffin or his lawyer, just given that he has reiterated his request in his letter to his attorney that everything be in writing and pursuant to the agreement. I would just ask that we get his consent to that arrangement in writing. And also that we make the budget amendment so that we don't have a commitment that doesn't have a corresponding budget line item. So that has to be voted on the next meeting. I think we should discuss it now so that you know what action we might put on the agenda.
If it's a consensus of the board, I can, reach out to the property attorney and ask for a written acknowledgement of what we submitted. And, I mean, he's got it, I've chatted with him, but if he wants a written response, I can put the consensus of the board, I can do that.
Given that the whole basis for where we are is that we didn't put something in writing, I would just ask that we just take that small step.
Sure. Okay,
So as far as the budget, obviously, we will bring that to the.
right.
So, the budget. So. It'd be hard to do without in front of us and the actual numbers in front of us, so we suggest we.
So you mind agreeing with that?
No, that was the plan anyway, and so. Obviously, we're busy getting better job with what we hear. But that all each other.
Thank you, Chairman.
Sure. At this time, I'm gonna recognize Greg Hale. You're right. He's the gentleman that basically took Butch's place. He's still gonna be based in Utah, but he's available on phone calls if we need him. He's good about that. And he comes to front of Nina whenever he needs to. So I would like to give you a minute to address the board if you'd like to, and tell us a little bit about who you are. And maybe answer some of those questions that have been posed tonight if you'd like to, or if you'd like to come back later and do that. Or,
Sure thing.
yeah.
Change this. Okay. Yeah, my name is Greg Hale. I'm the vice president of,
There you go.
the vice president of Transportation Infrastructure Partners, a joint venture that has ownership in Nassau terminals, and it also is, the operator at the port. There are a lot of other assets in the joint venture that we manage all over the East Coast and the Gulf. So appreciate you guys having me tonight. And yeah, to address some of the questions that Commissioner Nelson brought up, we did receive a letter, and I believe we responded that we were going to take a look at it, and we do have quotes, and we want to refresh those quotes, different forms, and that makes sense. But none of those items seemed extraordinary, so we should be able to respond soon.
Anybody have any questions for him?
Is it too much to ask that we get some sort of answer before the next meeting, which would be first?
November
second
8th.
Tuesday in November?
November 8th.
November 8th, yeah.
Let me check on those quotes and see what it'll take to refresh it, and when we'll get them back, and then I can respond and give you a better date.
It's really a matter of urgency when the commissioner has been to the board of it's a safety concern. I know how Savage is very concerned with safety. So that's just the reason for the urgency, is that we wouldn't want something to happen when we've all had multiple discussions about issues.
Right. To help put your minds at ease, we do have safety procedures around that, underneath that canopy, and to avoid any issues. And it's currently got essentially engineering and process solution to keep it safe right now.
Does that include not working in the rain?
Yeah, not using that particular workspace.
Because I was out there the other day, and it was just raining, and they were up with it. That every month is fun.
Okay, I had some time.
So, Ms. Gabriel, I'm sorry, prior to your time here, you may not be aware, but I think Chairman Colwood was on board that time, correct me if I'm wrong. There was an incident of works involving a crane operator where the crane cab, due to lack of maintenance of the crane, that the crane cab fell, and the operator of the crane was tragically killed. And so we are very sensitive to safety. We know that we were sensitive to safety, and so we just want to make sure that we're, taking the right actions to actually fix the physical problems, as opposed to postponing those types of investments. If they have an impact on safety, they should be prioritized. That I think is the position of the whole board.
Yeah, I understand. We put safety first. It's apparent and obvious in our processes that we implement and the way that we do business, but safety is the number one priority. And, we care that work for us, people on board, people that access, and we want them to be safe.
I'll also tell you that Greg and David and myself met with Customs and Border yesterday, Director Bradshaw, and who else? Perry, yeah. Perry, who is no longer here, he's over in Jacksonville, working over there for a while. And we had some very good discussions with them about the Customs House and the future of Customs House. And I think we can bring something to you very positive in the near future about that. And we've also, you want to talk about the grant?
always good to bring good news.
Yes.
So you may recall in one of the previous meetings, I mentioned that we had made a request to the Florida Seaport Security funding the initial design work to look at what it would cost us to actually address the customs house issue. And at today's meeting, we were granted the full request of $25,000 that will be matched by the operator. So we'll have a budget of about $35,000 to move forward with that design work. We'll probably, what will happen now is Central Office of DOT will have to program that money in the work program, and then they'll submit a grant agreement to the commission for approval. So given the time of year, I'm told it'll probably be early January before that will come back to this commission for approval. And at that point, you can hire an architect to come up with conceptual designs and value estimate, so that you can then make subsequent requests for funding for the actual final design and construction of that. In the conversation with Director Bradshaw, we all acknowledge that the current agreement with Customs expires in April of next year. And I believe that with this activity going forward, actually working on design efforts, moving forward with a construction plan, that they might seriously consider a year-to-year extension of that lease agreement to allow this process to continue. So I will communicate with Director Bradshaw in the morning that we got the money for the design, and that we'll be going through that process. What I'm going to recommend, I've already drafted a rough draft of an RFQ to solicit for an architect. I've also talked with Patrick earlier about perhaps an alternative approach, but we can go through that procurement process concurrent while FDOT is getting the grant application put together, so that once you execute, then you can enter into agreement with the architect and not have another 2 to 3 month delay to go through that procurement once at that point. So try to compress that time frame as best we can, so that once you've got that grant agreement executed, you can move forward with that project.
So to add on to that, the Director Bradshaw is very happy about the step of the executive to get this situation resolved. And they're not going to be pulling out anytime soon. They're going to stay there, and they've given us extra time to get all this done. Everybody's happy. There's God not following with custody now. All right. Any other discussions about that? All right. Last thing we have, Patrick, you want to make a request?
Thank you, Chairman. We need to have another shade meeting in the pilot payment case. And so I was hoping next week, I'd like to get this thing moving, but we've got some work to do. So I'd like to have it before our next meeting on November 8th. At 4:30, 5 o'clock. I'm not sure everyone's schedules are, but we need to meet about this case. We need to discuss settlement strategy and litigation expenditures, which is all we're allowed to talk about, as you know. So that's what I'm asking for, so that Rosanna can help me set it up. It would be 4:30, 5 o'clock on November 8th.
How long do you think it'll take? Less than an hour?
It's up to you all, but I would leave an hour, need a little break between that and the regular meeting. So, if we schedule it at 5, and we know what the deadline is, and we'll have to get out of the room and come back in here. I can't imagine it would take more than an hour, but that's really how the discussion goes.
What's your schedule look like, Commissioner? 4:30 to 5 o'clock. What's the choice? Make sure we got enough time. Very important. Okay. So we'll have a shade meeting at 4:30 on November the 8th, Wednesday, right before our board meeting at 6 o'clock.
Chairman, may I say something?
Yes, sir.
And I want to thank Roseanne for the PA system.
Absolutely.
the light and everything. I think that the folks that are here tonight appreciate it. I could hear the other side of the room. I don't have the best of hearing, but I could hear it. So thank you for doing that.
Can you all hear us out there? All right.
Thank our engineer over there. For doing that.
Thanks, sir. All right, anything else to bring before the board? Done. Thank you.